Hey all, this is Ray from Exclusively Comics, and I wanted to do a follow-up little podcast on the developments that's going on in the Scarlett Johansson Disney lawsuit. We get a little bit more details, and I wanted, from my understanding, about how actually everything going on, and that this lawsuit potentially is very vital to future actors and actresses' contracts with studios, and also it was very important about the theater releases of movies. And we all know that the world's drastically changed since the pandemic. And during the height of the pandemic, people was not going to theaters. But before then, studios had an agreement with theaters. They would release their movies to theaters, and the theaters would take a percentage of the ticket price, and the theater, and then the studios would receive a percentage of the profits that was off of that. One of the reasons why there's such high prices of popcorn and drinks and candy and things like that at the theater is total cash money that the theater can bring in. And also, actors and actresses wanted to tie their salaries and tie their earning potential to the performance at the box office. Now, sometimes this would be great, and sometimes this would not be so great if the film completely flopped. There would be a base salary in which the actors or actresses would be paid by the studio, and then there would be a percentage that they would get off of the profits. And it may have been after the studio made its money back, after that, or whatever it was. It has a potential for the actors and actresses to make a whole lot more money than what they normally would make off of just a set fee. And it also helps certain films get made and get certain talent, because their profits is tied to the success of a film, and people want to go see the film because certain actresses is in the film. That's why certain actors and actresses are major draws in films, such as Dwayne Johnson or whoever it may be. So that's the way it was structured. Well, Scarlett Johansson's contract was with Marvel Studios, and she had made her contract before the pandemic and everything that transpired there. But Disney is the parent company of Marvel Studios. They put Marvel under pressure to be able to release the film, not only in theaters but also on Disney Plus, so that they could make their profits, because it's far more profitable for these studios to release their films on the streaming services than it is on these services in theaters, because they're directly making profits off of this film rather than it going to profits. Now the studios want to do this, but the theaters definitely want the same old contracts with the studios to be able to, survive and be able to, thrive. I mean, they built these great facilities and everything like that, but the fact is the world has changed and not everybody's going to the theaters like they were. And really, Black Widow was really a test to see what was going to transpire. And first, Disney wanted, and there was rumors that they would directly release it on Disney Plus, but there was some backlash on that, probably internally with Disney, with Marvel, and then there was some backlash on the actual release with it there. And so anyway, Disney released this film simultaneously between the Disney Plus, which I myself personally purchased, and then they released this film in theaters. And now, very well there may be a breach of contract, but just Scarlett Johansson received a $20 million payday as a result. Disney put the statement out as a result of her film, but she has the potential that she said that her representative said that she has lost $50 million on this, and her agreement probably was with Kevin Feige, who is the head of Marvel Studios and not Disney. But Disney is going to fight this. Now we all say, well, this is a cash grab, and from Scarlett Johansson, and we can look at the numbers and see that that the film tremendously underperformed expectations. It probably took nearly $200 million on this budget, and it significantly underperformed. Number one, because of bad, toxic press that was given to it, and number two, because the movie really was bad. It had a lot of plot holes. It didn't make a lot of sense in places. The acting was okay. Some say that it was toxic towards men, which I didn't think it was. I think it presented women in a great positive light, and I was a fan of the film to a degree because I was a Scarlett Johansson fan. I wanted to see this, film, which should have been released, or it should have been made really before Marvel's Infinity War and Marvel's Endgame. It should have been made before then, so it didn't interfere with this, but it didn't. It was not done. They were still trying to get this made because of what I said, because there was a lot of backlash in the early part of Marvel Studios before they become part of Disney, before Kevin Feige took over, that they did not feel that a woman could successfully lead a franchise in this and have a successful film, which is ridiculous. And this is based upon the this is based upon the performance of movies like Blood Rain and Aeon Flux, probably Resident Evil, and these type of movies, which Resident Evil, that's a fan favorite. It had like 5 of them, and I think though it's stupid to have this type of archaic and this mentality that, we've moved past that. Wonder Woman was a proven commodity that it made a lot of money, the first one, but now the second one, Wonder Woman 1984, was a little bit less of a fluid story. It was, in some ways, is cheesy, and in some respects, and also the reason why it underperformed was because of that it was released the time that it was released too, and it was released directly onto HBO Max, which that's how I've watched it, and everyone can say that it was sort of a flop, but a lot of it has to do with the story and how the story was, and not necessarily, it just made things sort of convenient, and was a little bit, not too much continuity. And I would say that I think Wonder Woman 1984 was a better written story than Black Widow, and that's saying a lot. Black Widow was trying to make a spy film, Jason Bourne film, sort of like that, but it lacked the story, and it just was not there. And they even had a Bond villain sort of type character, but they just didn't have no continuity in the story, and a lot of things made too much sense. There was when I watched it, there was too much traveling to new locations, which there shouldn't have been. I don't think it should have been broken down, and maybe I'll put out a video on rewriting the screenplay of Black Widow. But anyway, this is what's going on with this contract. This is what's going on with this lawsuit. Going forward, you can almost guarantee that the contracts that are going to be made is going to be made where there is going to be provisions in it to be able to be released at the same time as it's released in theaters, because it makes sense. Take instance the earnings of this film. I believe it was, and I may be wrong, that Disney earned over $60 billion from direct release, and that was pretty good. And they played about, I think, 70 in theaters. Now they was not able, for some reason, I don't understand it, but there's rumors that the film was not released in China. Who knows? And the same is going to be done for Shame's suit, The Legend of the Ten Rings, which I don't understand why. Really why that they're not allowing these films to be, released in China. But who knows? And I guess who knows the reason why that it is. And there's all kinds of reports out there, but it really cuts into Disney's bottom line when these films are not released in China. That's the reason why they try so much to please these films, or please the Chinese market, to make sure that the films can be released there. Scarlett Johansson does have a valid point in making this lawsuit. Disney has a right to defend themselves. Who's right, who's wrong? It's millionaires. It is a millionaire that is suing a billionaire company. And who knows who will win. If it goes to arbitration, could be Disney will win. If it goes before a judge, and he sees a breach of contract, he doesn't take into account the extenuating circumstances that the film was made, the relatively loss, of revenues because of a global pandemic, and the film underperformed because it was a poor film, and not because necessarily that it was acted upon. The acting in it was done poorly. I think that the acting was okay. When I go back and I look at the comic book characters per se that was portrayed in this film, but we'll see how things play out, and this film will have major repercussions in Hollywood going forward. Kevin Feige has been sort of caught in the middle of this because he's trying to protect his actors and actresses, his talent, and then he is trying to, be a company man for Disney. And the Hollywood Reporter reported before this happened that Kevin Feige is reported saying, quote, Kevin Feige is a company man, that this is quoted about Kevin Feige, and not prone to corporate showdowns or shouting matches, but I'm told that he's angry and embarrassed. He lobbied against Disney the day of the date plan for Black Widow, preferring a big screen exclusively and not wanting to upset his talent. When everything went wrong, the movie started tanking, and Scarlett Johansson's team threatened litigation. He wanted Disney to make this right with her, and Disney declined to comment on Feige. That is a very interesting quote. Kevin Feige has always been one that has promoted that people really have to watch the entirety and the awesomeness of a film when it's released in a theater, and to experience that it's an experience that people have to have. That is all well and good, and those things are great, but we cannot compare the world that was back when even Marvel Infinity War and Marvel's Endgame was released to now. Things have changed. People have changed. The world has changed. We need to change with it. And quite honestly, talent needs to recognize that things have also changed also for them. Instead of burning bridges and threatening lawsuits and doing all of this thing and feeling like they have been taken advantage of by the big evil Disney and playing the victim that everybody has sort of made Scarlett Johansson as a victim here, a victim that made $20 million and said that she lost 50. If they can come to some agreement that, that there's a certain percentage that she gets off of something, because Disney's going to profit off of this film for years, and so should Scarlett Johansson every time that it's played on Disney Plus, which those statistics can be measured. You got the toys and everything like that, but effectively, in my opinion, Scarlett Johansson has burned all bridges to Disney, and it is really sort of seems like a cash grab in many respects to her. The PR people from Disney are very professional, and her people are very professional and trying to play the victim here. And I'm sure that she'll be making the talk show rounds and all this stuff, maybe even go on Oprah, who knows. But, and Disney may try to face some negative PR, from this. which, you know, I mean, all of these SJW writers and columnists and things like this, which, you know, I don't know if I fall into that. I just believe everybody ought to be treated equally, is trying to make this out, you know, and I'm sure that it really burns Scarlett Johansson that a man, Dwayne Johnson, earns $40 million a picture and she earns 20. I'm sure that there is something in the Rock's, and I'm calling the Rock for professional wrestling, that contract that covers both bases. I mean, he has to deal with the fact that his new movie, The Jungle Journey, I think is what it's called, and he's developing so many movies right now with even Disney that it has suffered, you know, because of at the box office, and I'm curious to see what it makes. Definitely, it is going to be outperforming Black Widow, because Black Widow took a deep dive in week 2, you know, on sales, but a lot of it has to do with the toxicity that there is amongst all of these self-righteous writers out there, but they have a point in saying that the film really has a lot of flaws, which they have every right to say that, which it did, but it was a good, fun film nonetheless, with all the flaws and all the plot holes and everything like that. And, you know, it could have been made better. It could have definitely been edited better, as I said before. And it's really sad that Scarlett Johansson's tenure in Marvel is going to be ending on this note. Let's go ahead and get into what exactly Disney's response is. I said that it's been negative, has been. Their quote and their statement was that there has been no merit whatsoever to this filing. Speaking of the lawsuit, Scarlett Johansson, the lawsuit is especially sad and distressing. It's callous disregard of horrific and prolonged effects of the coof, and I'm going to say the coof because we all know what that is, pandemic. Disney has fully complied with Ms. Johansson's contract, and furthermore, the release of Black Widow on Disney Plus with Premier Access has significantly enhanced her ability to earn additional compensation on top of the $20 million she has received to date, end quote. So this has really faced a lot of criticism, and it is just their corporate statement about the matter, as any corporation would do this, and I'm not for it, I'm not against it, but it's just simply a statement in their respects. There's a deep division between both parties in this, and it's going to be either settled, I hope it's settled, for the sake of everything, because Disney will end up coming out as the evil empire in this, which I don't think they are. I think that they have a valid claim to this, and it's just like, for instance, what I feel, and I relate it to is pro wrestling, okay? You know, you have the reason, the guys and the women at the top of the card. They're at the top of the card because they're who everybody wants to see. They're the people that puts the people in the seats. Ric Flair was 16-time world champion. He was the guy that put the people in the seats. Stone Cold Steve Austin, even Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Top guys that put people. The reason why the people is going to see the shows is because those guys was on the card. Even today, even though she faces a lot of criticism, the reason why Charlotte Flair, which is just as talented as all of the men, is at the top of the card, is always in the championship picture, is because she is the biggest draw that the WWE has right now, and people want to see her. She's an attraction, and she's the one that why they want to go there. Same thing, the reason why these major studios have certain actors and actresses in their movies, and the reason why they are paid so much is because they are major draws. People want to see them in films. They want to see them perform. Scarlett Johansson is one of the top actresses in the world, but her solo movie underperformed. Was that Disney's fault? No, it wasn't. It was a result, number one, as I said, of the toxicity that was prior to the release of the film. And simply, there are people out there that are critics. Their whole mission is to try to get people not to go see these films and say how horrible they are, instead of letting people go to the films and watch them themselves. And they have done it with the series that's on the Disney Plus series, that's Loki, and everything else. And people, they tune out, they get a certain mentality and going when they're watching these films, and all they can see is the flaws. They just simply can't go and enjoy these things as fans, and they think what the film isn't, trying to pick apart the message instead of just enjoying the film overall. Number two, the film was released and at the wrong time. It's great that the film was released when it was. I would have loved at the end credits for that whistle of Scarlett Johansson to be there, because I would love to have her in the MCU. I would love to have her come back. That would be tremendous, but that's not possible anymore. But there may be another Natasha Romanoff, but she won't be Scarlett Johansson. She will be another actress playing her that will be probably from another universe. But it would be nice to have that. But the film had tremendous plot holes. It seemed like that it was rushed together. It was not a great story. There was too many locations in the film. I didn't think that Taskmaster being, a woman was that big of a deal. I thought it was pretty cool. There was a lot of stories about the boss that, I could understand the message that was there, and it had a great message, and it had a true message, and it was great to see, women triumphing over that, and it had, I really didn't understand the character of Red Guardian. I thought he was made into an idiot in the film, and but I didn't really realize things about him. I'm going to get into this one. I'm just going to give an honest review over this film coming up sometime, and I'm going to be as brutal as possibly can. And then I want to rewrite this script myself, and I know that I can do a better job. And so we'll see how it goes. And so there were some many flaws with the film. I think one of the main villains of the film should have been General Ross. He should have had more of a prominent role. There should have been more allusions towards the Thunderbolts in the film. I think that would have helped the film overall. There should have been more Easter eggs in the film. So there were many issues with the film. And so really, when you are, you have to take responsibility if you're going to be the top billed actor or actress in a film. If you can't draw the money, you bear the responsibility too. A lot of it had to do with people's lack of interest in going to the theater, which people still have. And I think that Disney desperately needed to have released the film when they did. Maybe they should have released the film the weekend after the theater release. I don't know. That would have saved face and would have helped them not having to deal with this lawsuit. But this issue and this lawsuit will have several repercussions over in the entire industry. And get ready to hear Scarlett Johansson's sad story. You know, don't feel sad for her. Yeah, she missed out on. There was no way that this film was going to be an Infinity War level film. No way. Could it have outperformed Captain Marvel? Absolutely. Could it have outperformed Wonder Woman, the first one? I don't know. If the story would have been better, it could have made a lot at the box office. It still would be performing well. But now you have Dwayne Johnson's new movie coming out. You have different movies that's going to be coming out that's being released. You had Fast 9 that come out being released. And these different films that was there. And Black Widow is going to underperform. And so this is, you know, if you want to play this game, if you want to be equal, in my estimation, if you can't bring the revenue in as the main draw of the film, then you have to look at yourself and, you know, not try to save face and say that, well, it's because of this, because they released it on video on their streaming service is why they didn't get their bonus from the theater contract. And according to the quote that Disney gave, she did get revenue from the release on Disney Plus. You know, I would not be a bit surprised if in the next few months we have another person cast as Natasha Romanoff. And I would not be a bit surprised now Disney is going to make it a point to replace her in the Marvel Universe so that she's not going to be, you know, there. And also it brings another issue. It is also a negative thing in the industry, in the film industry, that this person is going to cause issues when they're in our film, and it may have a negative effect on who or whom, which studio, big time studio that pays those big bucks, $20 million paydays, will pay for Scarlett Johansson to be in their film. Disney's not going to do that. Disney has Star Wars. Disney has all kinds of programming and things that can be done and that can be made. And they're one of the major studios that's in Hollywood. And it is foolish for Scarlett Johansson and her lawyers to go after Disney in this way and burn that bridge to Disney. Because you're really hurting yourself in the long run. You're talking about, well, I need my $50 million. Well, the film she wasn't going to get $50 million at the box office to begin with because the film sucked. And people are not going to go watch it. Not only that did it suck, and with the backlighting of it, not only that, it's because there was so much controversy surrounded the film before it was released. And, and that wasn't Disney's fault. That wasn't Scarlett Johansson's fault. That a lot of it, as I said, had to do with the toxicity that is out there on social media to anything that Disney or anything that represents society that comes out with, that they're out there to be able to try to, it seems like some take pleasure in damaging the film's release. And this is really an issue, and this is I know that people have a right for free speech, but there's a line between being supportive of a film, supportive of actors and actresses, and then being completely toxic. That number one, they review these films before they have a chance to perform. They review these films weeks before they get rumors and all of this stuff going on about what's in the film, and of course the channels want to know it, and some of them are very positive in saying people go watch the film, determine yourself. But then there's some of these guys, some of these critics that are on YouTube especially, and on Twitter, that they're so toxic that they have their following, just like they were with the Loki series, that they cause a negative backlash on the production of this art, this film, that these studios and these people and these actresses put their heart and their soul into what they produce. You know what? If you want to portray your characters, if you want to portray your heroes, you know what? Make your own films. Make your own comics. You can't author their IP. You can't take, but you know what? You can create your own, and not unless some of the IP is not protected, like some of the mythological characters, like Thor. You can't have Thor do everything of what Marvel did and copy what the Marvel Thor, but you know what? You can tell about the stories about the mythological Thor all you want to, and make your own stuff. These people are, they're acting. They've built their careers. They have, and they criticize it, but don't be toxic, and don't prevent people from, and don't spread such toxicity that people can't enjoy the art that is being created on the screen. So, whoever wins out of this, if it prolongs out of the Scarlett Johansson lawsuit, who really loses is the fans. And we really need to, it's a legal battle, it's a legal question, and I'm sure that both sides is going to come to some agreement, like I've said, but we can explore and really understand what's going on. I mean, I see Scarlett Johansson's point of view. If her contract was breached and her lawyers are telling her, her representatives are telling her she missed out on $50 million more dollars, rather than, but the film didn't make that. The film wasn't going to make that because of the way the film was produced, and it is the studio's fault. It is the filmmaker's fault. It is the director's fault. It is the editor's fault that there was too much junk, too much wasteful spending and production in this film to try to make something that fans would enjoy. Keep your messages in there. keep strong female characters in there. Keep the Taskmaster, and make the Taskmaster a woman. You know, keep that role in there, but just don't make everything a bed of roses. And, you know, where, you know, we all can just sing Kumbaya at the end of the world. That's not the story, and not the comic book narrative of how, you know, the real world is. Let's bring it down to real. So there's responsibility on both sides, you know, on this battle, this lawsuit. It may have, and I believe it will have, repercussions on how contracts for actors and actresses are constructed going into the future. That is not simply going to be based upon revenue that is brought in at the box office, revenue that's brought in at the theater. It is going to be based upon performance also on their streaming services. And I don't think the film ought to be released early on Disney Plus at all. I think the film needs to, you know, take its normal course. You know, I did a re-release of the film, you know, around Christmas. I mean, they wanted it to be this box office smash hit. They missed out, and it should have been a July 4th film that was going to be released. Nothing really significant was on that day. It should have been released on the 4th. It would have better performed, no doubt, than July 9th. And it's not like they didn't have a year to plan it. And the performance is a lot, blames it on Disney, on their corporate structure in releasing and producing this film. I'm sure that they had plenty of footage to be able to make the film better, but they just chose not to do it. And so it goes to the director, it goes to the production, it goes to not the CGI. The CGI was okay in the film, and then it goes to a lot of those things and a lot of those factors. So it's really sad that hey, you know, this character that really, as a fan, you get invested in, you know, that's there. You know, she's beautiful, and you want to see her have a good story because she appears to be such a strong female role model. And, you know, for girls and for women, and you see that her story ends, you know, the shocking end of her in Infinity War, you know, I mean Endgame, when Natasha Romanoff dies, and, you know, that it's passed to, and that, you know, it's passed to her sister, you know, they're in this film of Black Widow. So anyway, this is what we're left with, and we're left with a mess. I don't know if I'll report on this more. Probably will, I don't know, but we'll see. But anyway, this is my thoughts, this is my feelings. Was it a cash grab? Is it a cash grab by Scarlett Johansson? In a way, yes. In a way, no. Whose fault is it? It's everyone's fault. Scarlett Johansson did the work. She should get paid for a contract, but she also should be lenient enough to be able to, you know, say, hey, you know, let's restructure this thing, you know, because times have changed. And I imagine there's a lot of frustration on her part too, because, you know, I mean, this was the end of her character, and of course she wants to profit off of it. And so, you know, we'll see what happens, and I hope that it works out for everybody. I hope that both sides are able to get together. That, you know, in a perfect world, let's hope that Scarlett Johansson ends back up in the MCU, because, you know, I think that there's a story to be told still, and we want to see that her character story to still be told. And just like we wish that, you know, that Robert Downey Jr.'s character Iron Man was still being told, but, you know, that's not going to happen either. But, you know, we have, and Chris Evans, you know, his Captain America. We don't know if they're bringing him back or not. And but anyway, you know, they were with us for a time. Those characters and those actors and actresses that played those characters with us for a time, and now they're gone away, and now we have to move on to new characters. And that's the way that film goes, I guess, and that stories go. But we can remember and look back on, you know, their progression and how that they told stories to us that you know, was great to see on the screen. And we can leave off that I'll probably say this in closing, that we leave off that Natasha Romanoff's character, Black Widow, was finally left with a positive, strong message. You know, not one only of self-sacrificing, as, you know, comic book heroes do, but also one of that, you know, that we get finally the story of her character. You know, we don't know where it's going from here, but we can appreciate where it was. You know, I wish her story would have ended on a positive note in the MCU, because I was really a fan of her portrayal of Natasha Romanoff. She did a fantastic job. And so I tried to cover the entire story here from every perspective that I could. And I know that I've went on here a while, but I really like the character. She's, you know, so I hope that everybody, you know, go watch Black Widow. It's going to be out, who knows when it's going to be out for every body to watch. I still watch it. You know, I've watched it 3 times now. Watched it, you know, family and different things. And, you know, it's got some good scenes in it, and I highly recommend it. And even though that it's got a lot of story parts and part of it's kind of cheesy, you know, it's still a good story, and it's a good story to take a daughter or to take a group of young girls to, and young boys too, and let them see what a hero is. So you all take care, and I hope that you all enjoy the rest of your day or night, and we'll talk to you later. Bye bye.